about Black Lives Matter, people kind of say, well, are you talking about black people? What are you talking about here? If we're talking about Americans taking care of each other, then it shouldn't be about Black Lives Matter. You should be able to show all the different things that have gone on in our country where people stood up and said no more. We do the same thing that small towns do. That's my 2 cents to that.
Jason Aldean just did what no one else in country music has ever dared. He sued The View, and not just the show. He went after Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, and the entire panel with a $40 million defamation lawsuit, accusing them of slander, lies, and using their national platform to assassinate his character. And that's not all. Behind the noise, a second bombshell quietly exploded. A $58 million lawsuit targeting CMT for pulling his video off air. This isn't just about one song. This is a legal war over who controls the narrative in America. And Aldean just dropped the first punch. But what exactly did The View say that pushed him over the edge? Why did ABC scramble to defend their hosts under the First Amendment? And how is Jason's lawsuit exposing a pattern of media smear tactics that could finally hit a legal wall? Stick around, because what Whoopi said on national television and how she said it might cost her millions.
So country singer Jason Aldean is getting backlash for the video of his song Not in a Small Town, which critics are saying is racist. It's got lyrics, racist lyrics, and images. Aldean says the song's about unity. Here's South Dakota Christian Nome defending him. Here's the clip.
When Jason Aldean released Try That in a Small Town, he thought he was standing up for small town values, community, unity, and law and order. Instead, he got blindsided. The backlash was instant and explosive. Critics didn't just dislike the song, they branded it dangerous, dog whistling, and racially charged. Headlines accused Aldean of promoting vigilantism and using Black Lives Matter protest footage to stir up hate. Social media lit up with outrage, and overnight, Aldean was cast as the villain in a story he didn't even know he was in. But here's the kicker. Most of the people criticizing the song never even listened to it. They didn't hear Aldean singing about unity. They didn't see the lyrics as a defense of decency. All they saw was a target. A white, Southern, pro-America country artist who dared to say enough. And leading the outrage mob? The View, who didn't just throw shade. They launched a full-blown attack. But what Whoopi Goldberg said next wasn't just careless. It might be exactly what triggered this lawsuit.
Play anywhere? You own South Dakota now? Listen, you know, there are lyrics in the song, and I think, you know, he talks about life in a small town, and it's different, you know, and he shows these images. He's got folks from the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's talking about people taking care of each other. And I find it so interesting that it never occurred to Jason or the writers that that's what these folks were doing. They were taking care of the people in their town because they didn't like what they saw. Just like you talk about people taking care of each other in small towns. We do the same thing in big towns. You just have to realize that when you make it about Black Lives Matter, people kind of say, well, are you talking about black people? What are you talking about here? If we're talking about Americans taking care of each other, then it shouldn't be about Black Lives Matter. You should be able to show all the different things that have gone on in our country where people stood up and said no more. We do the same thing that small towns do. That's my 2 cents to that.
On live national television, Whoopi Goldberg looked straight into the camera and tore into Jason Aldean. She didn't ask questions. She didn't analyze lyrics. She declared, she mocked, and most importantly, she accused. Racist, dangerous, irresponsible. Those were just some of the words tossed around as the panel dissected Try That in a Small Town like it was hate speech disguised as country music. Whoopi claimed Aldean was targeting Black Lives Matter protests and painting rioters as criminals while ignoring their community efforts. She even implied he was nostalgic for a time when dissent was met with violent suppression. But here's the problem. Whoopi and her co-hosts didn't just criticize the song, they tore down Aldean as a person, linking his hometown, his beliefs, and even his intent to racism without a shred of evidence. And they did it while millions watched. This wasn't commentary, it was character assassination. And Aldean, he wasn't going to take it quietly. His legal team saw it for what it was: reckless defamation under the mask of daytime TV banter. But Aldean wasn't done, because his lawsuit doesn't just call out words, it calls out a broken system. And next, that system gets hit where it hurts. Jason Aldean didn't just clap back, he lawyered up. His legal team filed a $40 million defamation lawsuit against Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, and The View as a whole. The court filing, lodged in the 65th District Court, accuses the hosts of intentionally misrepresenting his song and publicly branding him a racist with zero factual basis. Aldean's statement was simple but damning. "I am no racist," but the damage had already been done, broadcast to millions. The lawsuit goes further. It claims The View crossed the line from commentary into slander, using their platform not to inform, but to attack. His attorneys argue this wasn't protected speech. It was intentional and malicious defamation with measurable harm. And Aldean isn't stopping with just the hosts. ABC itself is named, accused of enabling the segment and refusing to rein it in. ABC's response? They leaned on the First Amendment. They claimed their hosts were simply exercising their right to free speech. But Aldean's team fired back, comparing Whoopi's words to yelling fire in a crowded theater: dangerous, reckless, and actionable. It's the classic media defense. Say what you want, claim opinion, and hide behind the Constitution. But this time, that shield might not hold, because Aldean wasn't just suing for money, he was suing for accountability. But then he dropped another legal bomb. And this time, it wasn't aimed at Whoopi. While the headlines screamed about Whoopi, Jason Aldean quietly filed a second lawsuit. This one aimed at CMT, the country music television network that pulled his video from rotation. And it wasn't a small claim. Aldean is demanding $58 million, accusing CMT of violating his First Amendment rights by caving to online outrage and silencing his voice. The network had aired Try That in a small town without issue, until the social media mob mobilized. Within days, they folded. No explanation, no defense, just silence. Aldean's team says that's not just cowardice, it's censorship. They claim CMT's decision to pull the video sent a chilling message to every artist: step out of line and we'll erase you. But Aldean's lawyers argue that line was never crossed. The song, they say, was never about hate. It was about defending community, standing up to lawlessness, and protecting your neighbors. If that message is now off limits, what's left? This lawsuit doesn't just strike at a network, it targets the culture of corporate submission to outrage mobs. It's a legal grenade tossed at the industry Aldean helped build. And if that grenade lands, it won't just rattle CMT, it'll send shockwaves through every boardroom that's ever bowed to cancel culture. But to understand how deep this really goes, we need to talk about a pattern, one that The View has perfected. This wasn't a one-off. If you've watched The View long enough, you know the pattern. Pick a target, twist the narrative, and unleash a flood of judgment. Facts optional. Jason Aldean isn't their first casualty, just their latest. From political figures to everyday Americans, The View has turned its platform into a courtroom without due process, where accusation equals guilt, and nuance doesn't stand a chance. For Aldean, this smear came wrapped in coded language, terms like dog whistle, undertones, and dangerous imagery. But they never pointed to lyrics. They never dissected the actual message. Why? Because doing so would reveal a song about community, not conflict. The real issue? Aldean didn't fit the narrative. A white, southern, pro-America country artist releasing a song during a culture war, he was an easy villain. And the moment that label stuck, the media latched on. Not because it was true, but because it sells. And that's the part no one wants to admit. This wasn't about right or wrong. It was about outrage for clicks, scandal for ratings, and a media ecosystem that thrives on destruction. But Aldean isn't just exposing The View, he's spotlighting how broken the entire system has become. And Whoopi, she handed him the ammunition herself. When Whoopi Goldberg laid into Jason Aldean, she didn't just voice an opinion, she rewrote the story. On national television, she claimed the music video used footage from Black Lives Matter protests to villainize people taking care of their communities. She painted the scenes of looting, firebombing, and chaos as acts of unity. Her words? They were taking care of each other. Seriously. But here's what she got dead wrong. Aldean never once mentioned race in his song. The lyrics spoke of crime, violence, and the spirit of small-town justice. The video, it showcased real-life footage from actual riots, events that caused billions in damage. To Whoopi, that was community solidarity. To the rest of America, it looked a lot like destruction. Even more absurd, she implied that Aldean's message of defending your town was somehow a veiled threat. But she never showed where that was in the lyrics, never explained why standing up against lawlessness was suddenly problematic. And the deeper you look, the clearer it gets. Whoopi didn't critique a song. She attacked a man, his background, his values, his audience. And she did it with smug certainty, as if facts were optional. It wasn't just tone deaf, it was reckless. And now, that recklessness might come with a $40 million price tag. But this goes far beyond Jason Aldean. The real question now is, who's next? Jason Aldean didn't just sue The View. He challenged a system that feeds off outrage, silences dissent, and labels anyone who doesn't conform as dangerous. This isn't just about a song or a single episode of daytime TV. It's about the collapsing line between opinion and defamation, between free speech and targeted character destruction. If Aldean wins, it'll send a message to every network, host, and producer who's grown comfortable with turning speculation into truth and disagreement into public execution. It means platforms like The View can't keep hiding behind the First Amendment when they knowingly spread false narratives with real consequences. And for CMT, if they're found guilty of suppressing speech to please the mob, it could crack the entertainment industry wide open, forcing labels, networks, and sponsors to stop bowing to cancel culture and start standing by the artists they helped build. Because the real story isn't just about Aldean's lyrics. It's about who gets to speak, who gets to be heard, and who gets silenced when they speak the wrong truth. So here's the mic drop. Jason Aldean stood up, not just for himself, but for every artist, creator, and viewer who's had enough of the lies. And if he wins, the echo chamber might finally crack.